it is to do a live video. I keep getting these messages, all that stuff. And I told you I had a flat tire. Note to self, do not continue your ride. I got 3 miles away and I had to walk my bike back with my dog. The tire went flat again. So not a good thing. Honest, I don't do that in airplanes. If the tire's flat, I get it fixed and find out what the reason was there. So anyway, hey, this is Tuesday night. Welcome to our Fearless Flight Live show for anybody out there who's either afraid to fly, who knows somebody who's afraid to fly, or you just flat like talking about airplanes with us. We're glad to have you with us this week. We've got a special guest coming up in just a few minutes. And fear of flying, you know, I want to go over that. It's the perception of a life-threatening situation or circumstance or event combined with feelings of helplessness. Think about it. It's your perception. You know, it's that smoke detector that I talk about that we've got up here called the amygdala. It is not a real thing necessarily. It's the toast burning, or it could be a grease fire on the stove, but your smoke detector doesn't care. It only warns you about smoke. So we have this other part of our brain that has to do some work in there, and we got to educate it sometimes. So tonight we're going to talk to somebody who went through that process on his own and actually pulled off a phenomenal feat, put me out of a job prematurely, crushed on the one hand and elated on the other. So we're going to talk about that. So keep that fear of flying in mind there. And I mentioned tonight, we're going to talk a little bit at the end about the registration for the 201 class. Dieter has that up and running online. Poll question: if you are out there and you are watching the show, what keeps you from flying or makes you nervous? Okay. What causes you to worry about fear of flying? Put your number one thing out there. And we're going to talk about that with Jeff here in just a few minutes. As I mentioned, we got a special guest, Jeff Kresnak, and then our aviation news roundup. We'll, if we have anything, we'll bring that up. Okay. So the 201, real quick, it's going to be on April 25th, Saturday, April 25th. We're going to meet here at a hotel in Phoenix. If you go up online, there'll be a link in the show notes there. You can register for that. You can get information. And remember, it's the 201 class, which is the classroom in the morning, followed by an exclusive debrief for those of you who are going to fly with us. And then we'll fly in the afternoon, go to Las Vegas and back. Remember, the most important thing is to get out there and purchase those tickets to Las Vegas and back from Phoenix. They're still running around a couple $100 for the round trip. And you want to get that before it gets to the day before or the week before or 2 weeks before. And then you say, hey, Ron, you know how much it costs? They want $500. Yeah, if you wait until the week before, it'll cost $500. If you get out there and buy your tickets now, it's going to do it. And why wouldn't you want to buy them? Buy them, reserve the seat. If you don't fly that day, you can keep credit for that, and you can come back and fly with us again on another day. Okay, so let's.
I also wanna point out that we have a very in-depth blog post that you wrote about some of the questions that people have about coming to the class. So just go on our website and go on the blog. It'll be right there. I'll put the link a little later in the show post.
I got these two little pottery things I bought at a craft show one time. One is little bitty, okay, and one is huge. And the huge one has written on it, it says reasons why not, and the little one has reasons why. That blog post goes into that. Why would you not fly? Okay, those are all over the place. We're going to give you the reasons why to, okay, because they're always going to be less impressive than the reasons not to. But when you listen to Jeff here, we're going to bring Jeff on right now. We're going to talk to him about this guy is an absolute go-getter. And I had more fun talking to him over the year. And like I said, and I think Cindy's there, the person that helped him. You'll meet her in just a minute as well. She put me out of a job. So we either got to employ her or we got to get her off the planet here, because she's the reason that Jeff got an airplane. So come on, Jeff. Let's see. We're looking at
just unmuted. There you go.
There you go. All right. And is Cindy hiding off screen there?
She's right there.
All right. We get to meet the amazing Cindy. So Jeff, tell everybody your name. We just do that so we can broadcast this later without my mouth running all over.
Okay. Yeah. My name is Jeff Kresnak, and I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
And how old are you, Jeff? How young are you?
I'm 58 today.
Oh my God, I'd kill for 58. All right.
Happy birthday.
And what do
Thank
you live in Traverse City, right? Michigan?
I live in Grand Rapids and half of the time up in Traverse City, which is about 2 hours north of here on a lake called Torch Lake.
And actually I put that picture up, I think, gosh, it's been 6 months ago or so, of you of the lake. When you and I were talking, you said, how'd you get that lake in there? Well, you sent me that picture and I thought,
yes,
I put it up there. So anyway, I should have put that up there because it looks like a gorgeous lake up there. And I would have gotten a chance to come up there and see it, but now things have changed there. So, all right. So Jeff, tell us a little bit about, how long was it that you quit flying?
It was probably close to 15 years ago. I was a flyer, like probably a lot of people, and I enjoyed flying. And 15 years ago, I had a major panic attack up in the airplane, and I landed and coming home from Green Bay, I landed in Detroit, and I was able to board the Detroit to Grand Rapids flight, and that wasn't bad at all. But that short flight from Green Bay to Detroit had wired my brain to be afraid to go back up and stand in the bathroom for 20 minutes. So I kept thinking back to that fear.
And what was there anything else going on in your life?
I think, I have my own business, and I had 4 daughters, and I had well,
that's enough right there. Having 4 daughters, who would, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I just had a lot going on. And I think that for anybody, I think it's important for any of us all to kind of clean the garbage out of our lives and to get our head clean and to mend relationships. I think that all, finds a place in our minds to find peace. And so that was a part of what I've been working on over the last year.
And stress in that thing up there that measures and warns us about danger and all that, it's accumulative, right? So all those things are backing up. And that's what I think a lot of people don't realize. Not that it's really important as to specifically what happened, but that's what happens is it all builds up. And then you can, literally you can have the straw that breaks the camel back. And for you, it happened to be that flight. Do you remember, was there any delays or anything on there or turbulence or anything?
No, there was a lot of turbulence going over Lake Michigan. It was like the end of November. It was a Green Bay Packer game. And there was a lot of wind coming over the lake. And so, there was a lot of turbulence. And I think that kicked the panic into high gear. And so when you quit flying, obviously you probably would have gone someplace, but what was the cost to you? What changed in your life? That made you want to get back to flying? Oh, well, to you and to all your listeners and all you guys, I wanted to change about 2 years after, 13 years ago. I went and bought numerous different books, fear of flying, anxiety books, panic attack books. I was downloading books. I was at the bookstore buying books. I was just searching for the magic cure that really didn't exist. And I truly, can only thank you, Ron, and I can thank your book. To the viewers out there that are listening, it's not any BS. It's the fact that your book, hits on all the cylinders that are needed to regain your life. And I think where you start off on the book on page, 13, you have where it says, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." That really played into my mind when I read that. And then underneath that, you have, "So if you are a fearful flyer, here is your opportunity to live this famous quote and contribute to real life change in a matter that's meaningful to you and to millions of other fearful flyers." I think that really was the start of the propelling me, reading that part at the beginning of your book when it says, "Be the change you wish to see the world." If you don't do the change, you're never going to see the world. So, Yeah, we met about, we started talking about almost a year ago in March of last year. I looked it up there, and you were pretty intense then. And when we started talking, and then you had to back off. Do you remember that a little bit?
Yeah, I do. Yep. My dad was in the hospital.
Yeah.
I had recently, I was 2 years out of a bitter divorce, which, I understand that people that are listening that have been through a bitter divorce and you're hauled into court every Friday or once a month, it contributes to all that stress. And like a psychologist told me, it's like a bathtub. It can only handle so much water before it starts pouring over.
So you basically took a little time off for yourself and stuff. And just recently I noticed you showing up on our Facebook group again. And so it looks like you was there anything in particular that caused you to say, okay, I'm ready to go again?
I just, it's just like, it's just, I've been wanting to do this. And I know when I talked to you, Captain Ron, last year and a couple times over the last couple months, I mean, your positive attitude, the way you look at this, you can honestly tell that you're not in this for the money. You're in this to help people, and it shows loud and clear. And so between your book, the Facebook people on Messenger, and your harmonizer, I don't think that you can strike out.
So you think I'm a pretty good guy?
I do. I truly do. I mean,
I want you to say that because Eric's down there. He's wondering what I'm really like when I'm in private with you guys. If I'm as crazy as I am when I'm with those guys.
No, I know you truly are. I mean, I've been to a few psychologists in my life and went through marriage counseling, and there's, people that are listening that have been there, they understand what I'm talking about. There's some of them that are just looking for the dollar and the short bill. And I truly believe in your heart of hearts and my heart of hearts, you're looking to try to get every fearful flyer up in the air. And I think you look at the monetary value is way down the line. I think that you are a compassionate human being. Your book spells loud volumes to that. And our conversations spelled that loud and clear as well.
So this all started with the 15-minute coaching call, if I remember right.
Yes.
And we probably went over a little bit because I think we always go over when we talk. You're such an easy guy to talk with. And
well, thank you.
A lot of fun as well. So let's talk. The part I really wanted people to hear tonight was the part where because you did something unexpectedly, and I was joking before, but literally you put me out of a job. I was crushed. You called me up on Sunday. So tell people what happened over the weekend.
She put you out of a job.
I know.
No, so what happened is, Ron and I were scheduled, Captain Ron was scheduled to come here, and I talked to Cindy, and when I had talked to you a few days, like a week ago, and I asked you, I said, when you were going to come here, and I said, I'm terrified. I don't know if I can do it. And when you said to me, when I made a comment on a 1 to 10, I might be a 10 as far as being a fearful flyer that won't be able to get up in the air. And when you said to me, Jeff, you're probably at a 4 or a 5, that was a lot of positive energy and a lot of positive thoughts that you gave me. And so, like I said, I buckled into your book. I read your book 5 times. I took your advice and highlighted the areas that fit my life. I used the harmonizer a couple times, and I can tell everybody out there that without the harmonizer, it would have been probably about 10 times more difficult than it was. The harmonizer, you remember when I texted you from the plane in Chicago?
Yeah.
You asked me how my anxiety was, and I said it too. And then all of a sudden something was wrong with the plane, or they were working on it, and they said there's a delay.
Before we get there, though, tell everybody, share with them the part where Cindy comes in there.
Well,
you were telling her that we had this all booked, right? We had this whole plan, and I was going to come out there and fly with you.
Yeah, you were. And then I told Cindy, and Cindy was like, you know what, she said, don't be a pussy. You're going to fly, She said, I just flew back last week from Vietnam. She said, I was in Japan 3 months ago. I fly all over. She said, I take off on those big planes. I fall asleep before the plane's in the air and I wake up when it lands. And so she was definitely a motivator. And but again, between you and Cindy and that's what got me over the hurdles. And there was a couple things in the book that you said that I questioned that I found out were definitely true, is where you said, hey, find somebody that loves you, cares about you, has compassion for you. I thought, well, for me, it's always been taking a challenge head on by myself, but I can definitely tell your listeners and you guys that it definitely helped having Cindy to squeeze her hand and hold on to her hand.
And that this is a real good point to make for people, particularly you're a really successful businessman, right? And you make a lot of tough decisions and you have a lot at risk and all that. And ultimately you are the one that has to own all that, and you have to do a lot by yourself. But I think a lot of us, particularly as males, is we think that we have to solve everything. I know I was raised as the firstborn male in my family. Nobody actually sat down with me and said, hey, Ron, you got to figure everything out. I just kind of fit into that role, and that's the trouble, is we take that stuff on. And I'm telling you, the people that I see that are successful are the ones like you that actually step back and say, okay, I don't need to do this by myself. I can actually ask for help. And I want to compliment you, Cindy. That's a tremendous thing that you did for him. And you obviously know him, that humor and just where his sweet spot is to egg him on. And I think that all came together. I mean, not to take anything away from you, Jeff, and the work that you did getting yourself prepared for that. I can't even imagine reading it once myself, let alone 5 times.
Well, Cindy was trying to save Jeff the agony of dealing with you and the expense
there
and the time by saying, don't be a P-bomb, sit down, settle up and shut up, let's go.
No, all help is from Brian. He read a lot of book 5 times again and again of the book.
Tell
from
him
Captain
on Friday, on Saturday night, knowing we were going to fly Sunday.
He been very worried and nervous, been so long, and I feel that's bother him. So I make decision to book a ticket, not telling him until late night. And then when I tell him, I have to tell him a little bit, and he stayed all night to read the book again and again.
Yeah, I stayed up.
But then he make it, I say, here, Tom, we had to go. And then he squeezed my hand so hard in the air. But I said, there's a message to the people who are afraid to fly, just reading the book from you, Ron, so they can more confident and will fly like normal people are, like it's not really thought like hard like what you thought. Yes.
We've had a lot of positive reviews on the book, but we had one that was kind of a bummer, and it said, they were discouraged because they said it didn't really offer any helpful advice, and it was pitching stuff. And so I'm grateful for you two, because it sounds like that wasn't true in your case.
It's lots of helpful.
Yeah,
Afterwards, so then I can push him, like make it through.
Yeah.
No,
and we really did want a book that was more how to, and not, there's a lot of books out there written by pilots, among other things. And it's about their love of aviation and about the system and how that works. And I'm not here to say that isn't important, but it's not what really gets you past that. You need some tools, you need to take action on your own part. And the harmonizer. So you were talking before, was it on the outbound leg that you guys were delayed a little bit?
Yeah, coming back from Chicago.
Okay, so tell everybody what, because I don't want people thinking that, oh man, I read the book, I got Cindy, she says get on the airplane, and it was clear sailing. It was still, you still had some up and downs, right? So what was it like when you heard that they were delayed, Jeff?
Well, here's from start to finish to you and your listeners. What I found comforting is not being in an airport for 15 years. Yeah. When I went through security and I had, my driver's license and went through TSA, And once I walked into the terminals, I felt like a huge relief. I thought,
Yeah.
you know, I've just got through half of this, half of the fears. You know, I've made it through security, and I started looking around, and people were friendly and kind, and, you know, people were smiling and laughing. And Cindy and I just sat there and we just looked at the planes coming in and out for an hour. And we got on the plane, we boarded. We didn't pre-board early. We kind of got in the middle where our seats were. And you know, I would say that the anxiety really hit me is when we started going up, and that,
Uh-huh.
you know, when the plane was going down the runway, you know, you kind of tell yourself there is no going back.
Right.
And but you know what, to the listeners, I mean, it was, I thought that the fear would be a 10 and the fear was a 1 or a 2. And
Wow.
it truly was. And
Wow.
maybe a 3, but it wasn't like, you know, I thought I was going to lose control. And I think probably a lot of your fearless flyers, or at least a couple of people I know, they're worried about, you know, losing control, or, you know, something happening to them. Like the mechanical issues of a plane never bothered me because I've been in the construction business. Those, I know those planes aren't going to crash. I mean,
Right.
so
So
to me,
you're an inspiration to a lot of people out there, because I'm seeing greater percentages of people who are more worried about them having a problem than the airplane having a problem.
yeah, I wasn't one bit ever worried about the airplane having
Yeah.
a problem.
Yeah.
I didn't, you know, flying over water didn't bother me. It was, what bothered me was just being able to get through security and get up in the air and get to my destination. And granted, I didn't, you know, have a long 2-hour or 3-hour flight, but I think Cindy's our flight was about 40 minutes each way. So I definitely got a good taste of the anxiety. But like I said, that harmonizer, the way you've developed that in the different sounds and the different things that are said, I would say that it drives the anxiety and the fear down substantially. I mean, that's an awesome deal. If you guys all put it together, I mean, I salute you. It's awesome.
So you guys landed, you had a little bit of a layover there, and then turned around and came back. And was the flight delayed a little bit on the way back too?
About a half hour, wasn't it?
About a half hour. And I remember we talked on the phone, and I was totally surprised and elated both at the same time. But I remember you telling me that you know, as you got closer to the departure coming back, you said, how is it going to be going back? And I said, well, I think it's going to be about the same or maybe less. But you did have a little bit of anxiety when you started to go on the return flight, right?
Yes, I did. I didn't have any while we were sitting in the terminal there. You know, I didn't have any really. I mean, maybe it got up to a 1 or a 2, and that then as time we were getting ready to start taxiing, I could feel the plane moving. I was still able to have my phone where I didn't have the airplane mode on, and I text you and I said, you know, what's your advice to slow this anxiety down? And your advice was to crank the harmonizer as loud as I could, and that's what I did. And we taxied down the runway. We went up in the air, and you know, it wasn't bad, was it, Cindy? It wasn't like I was shaking. I mean, my hands were a little sweaty, but I could tell you the next day, in that night, I felt like just such a relief, and it took away like a lot of the depression. You know, like the last couple of days, I'd say my depression went down 80-90%. I mean, because I would wake up every morning for 13 or 14 years thinking, you know, every time you turn the TV on in Michigan, it's showing the Virgin Islands or Florida. You know, everybody wants to escape. Everybody wants
in the winter.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you turn the TV on, it's half of the commercials are, you know, going on a cruise. And I just sat there and I thought to myself, you know, I'm never going to be able to do this until I started talking to you again, Captain Ron. And that's what I told you. And I mean, you know, I'm a straight shooter, and without you, without the book, without the harmonizer, and lucky to have Cindy, I wouldn't have been able to do it, period.
So for anybody out there, what's one thing or two tips that you could give them that
I think what I got out of your book, where you mention it a couple times, is where you say, you know, you are in control of your life. You are in control of your thoughts. And I kept thinking about how you wrote that a few different places. And when I started thinking how you put that into context, you're exactly right. I mean, we all are playing games with our mind. And like you put in the book, our mind has 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day. And a lot of my thoughts were just playing games with myself. And when you put in the book there where you stated that it's, you who makes the decision, that was huge to me.
Yeah, and we can't control the thoughts that pop up into our head. We just don't have control over that. But we can make sure that our thoughts don't control us and our behavior.
Exactly.
And that's what you did. And
yes.
Again, I'm gonna
Hey,
compliment you.
Jeff, I just wanna tell you
This is Dieter, by the way.
a comment from Jim Duke, and he says, "Take a cruise, Jeff."
Yeah. Hey, that's another thing you guys got going. You have the most compassionate, understanding people on your site, on Messenger. Every single person I talked to, the dozen that I reached out to over the year, maybe 2 dozen, all compassionate, great people, very inspiring, nurturing, positive. I mean, and then you guys, the 3 of you guys lead the show, and it's again, it's the book. I mean, I don't care about the guy that gave you the negative on the book. I know the book is a great book, because I bought 20 or 30 of them prior to this book, and none of them worked.
And we got you turned on. You have a relative apparently that lives in Phoenix. I don't know if she's on tonight, but hopefully she's going to come to the class on March.
Yeah,
7th.
she is, and her name is Kim Kresnak. I don't know if she's on there or not, but she kind of experienced the same thing I did about the same time. We're about the same age, and she really, really wants to fly, and she hasn't been able to fly in, I think, about 15 years, and she's now determined to go with this, and I know Kim will do it. I mean, cool. She wants it bad enough to do it, and again, that line of "be the change you wish to see in the world." I mean, if you can't follow that line, you're going to be confined to your own town, or you're going to be confined driving 20, 30 hours, 10 hours, whatever it's going to be, versus a short flight.
So I don't know what Ron's lifetime batting average is, but I bet you're clearing in the 900s of getting people in the airplane. It's amazing. And the most interesting thing to see in a class, in a group setting, is when people walk in the room and turn the corner, they think they were going to be the only one. And they look shocked. They stop when they see a whole room full of people. They're utterly taken aback. And usually the people in the room bond very, very well with each other. It's very helpful. And they're a little bit like you. They're real smart, real successful. They got all manner of stuff going on. They just can't they don't know how to turn off their brain of thinking about all the bad stuff.
Well, that's exactly it. Not to interrupt you, but if you read the book and you highlight the areas in the book, you will turn the bad stuff off. You will, and you might not turn it off 100%, but you will turn it off enough where you will be able to get on a plane. And then once you're on the plane, the book really doesn't matter anymore. It's what you put in your head from the book. But then now you have the other tool of the harmonizer.
Yeah.
There's another question. So Jeff, usually we're asking, Captain Eric or Captain Ron, the questions from our viewers. So there is we have people watching, by the way, today from India. We have people watching from the UK. So also I think Spain I saw on there. So we got a pretty international viewership. So one of the things that came up for Tony from the UK, and I think you could maybe answer that as far as how you were able to overcome that, and that is he's also feeling like trapped in the plane, like getting overwhelmed with his own feelings. And one of the things that is the biggest challenge is not making a fool out of yourself, not having everybody
being afraid that you will make a fool out of
yeah,
yourself.
exactly.
Well,
So maybe
that's
you can speak to that.
Well, I'll tell you, I can, and that's a great fear, and I understand that. It's like, how do you know you're not going to do something stupid? How do you know you're not going to end up with handcuffs on you? That's all just negative thoughts. That's not going to happen. And to the people that are worried about that, they just have to do what a psychologist told me. I mean, because I told a psychologist that a couple of weeks ago. I said, I'm afraid I'm going to lose control and be confined in this little capsule. And he's like, Jeff, have you lost control before? And I never have. I mean, the question was, no, I've really never lost control. So to the guys that are, and the gals or the ladies that are fearful, I promise you, if you have the book, the harmonizer, and you push through, you will do it. And I can say without the book and without the harmonizer, it'd be really, really difficult. But you look at and I'm not here as, you look at the book as inexpensive, you look at the harmonizer kit, it's inexpensive, and I'm not here to, it's just those are the two tools that worked.
So
Any other questions? Any other questions?
You one of the things that you said to me and the phone calls that we had was you gave me a lot of credit for that, and I said, I'll take credit which deserved, but I want you to take you're the one that got on the airplane, you're the one that read the book and all that. And it reminds me, one of my inspirations was a therapist here in the Valley named Milton Erickson who passed about 30 years ago. And he had this philosophy about helping people. And he told this story when he was growing up on a farm. He was about 12 years old. This horse obviously had run away from some farmer, and it came galloping up to their property. And he jumped on the horse, kicked it in the slats, and got it moving down the road. About 4 miles later, the horse slowed up and pulled up in this farmer's yard. And the farmer came out and he says, "How'd you know that was my horse?" And Milton said, "I didn't." He said, "Well, how'd you know to bring him here?" He said, "I didn't know that either." But he said, "I figured the horse knew his own way home. And all I did was give him a little encouragement and direction." And that's the way I view my role in doing this is I help people find within them. And that's the way I want to kind of wrap this all up with you, Jeff, is that you have that in you all these years. And I'm grateful that the book helped. I'm grateful that the harmonizer helped, but you were the one that had to do it. You were the one that had to take the action. But when you got that, you found your own way, you found your way home, and you were able to do that. And I'm really, really excited for you.
Thank you. Well, thank you. And there is one other thing too that did help me is I started exercising a couple months ago, just 2-3 days a week, walking a couple 3 miles and jumping on a treadmill occasionally. And just so I knew that if my heart got racing, I could, I was in, at least halfway decent shape. So it wasn't like I started working out tremendous, but I wanted to feel that feeling of my heart pounding hard by jumping on the treadmill. Because I had a feeling when I got on the plane, my heart was going to pound hard. But sure. I can tell your listeners that your heart won't pound as hard as after you've been on a treadmill for 20-30 minutes. It won't. You put the harmonizer on, it distracts all of your thinking. I mean, it does.
If there is a magic pill or a quick fix, the harmonizer turns out to be the closest thing that we found. And it's just a very, very overpowering audio music program to help you drown out that little negative Debbie voice in your brain that says, "Hey, you can't do this. Hey, what about this? What about that?" And you're living proof of what that is. And if we have any listeners out there that want to rent you, don't get confused, Cindy. Are you available to humiliate anybody else and tell them to just buy the damn ticket and get on the airplane?
A message to who out there afraid to fly. Just read Captain Ron book and feel more confident to fly. And that's true. That's about for Jeff here, been reading like again and again and again. But then in last minute, I will push it on him, I book a ticket and then he will be ready. But I want to get over it because he's been ready so long, like never.
Yeah.
So
I just
nothing.
had an inquiry today. Somebody said, "Hey, sometimes I've heard you say, Captain Ron, that just do it, just do it." Well, that's not all we say, but that is ultimately what you have to do. And I think I want to thank you again, Jeff, because you are the evidence that you do have to make the decision to get on the airplane sooner or later.
You do. But the other thing that helped me too is I knew another year was clicking by. And I think that your listeners that can sit there and go, hey, I'm 22 or 42 or 52 or 72. I mean, do you want to do this now, or do you want to wait and add another year or add another 2 years? And it was when Cindy kind of motivated me. I thought, you know what, I'm still going to be 57 for a few more days. I'd like to be able to say I flew at 57 versus I flew at 58. So so I think that the listeners, trust me, they can message me if they'd like to. I know with you, again, the book, the harmonizer, Dieter, the other captain, Eric, you guys, if they really want to fly, they can do it. They can do it.
I wanted to jump in just for a second. One of the things you pointed out, Jeff, many, or I should say a very high percentage of the people in the classes are worried about the same thing you were, of having a panic attack or some kind of psychotic break in the airplane. It's a very common concern, but I can tell you in my 30 years and all my friends and everybody I know, it just really doesn't happen. But everybody is consumed with the thought that it might. But they just don't. The airplanes don't have to deviate and land at East Overshoe and drag somebody off and throw them in jail. It just doesn't happen. But it's a very vivid concern for people that are afraid to fly.
Yeah, and and to counter that concern, when I got in the plane and in the airport, and if any of your listeners were gonna, start having a panic attack, or anxiety was gonna get higher, which I don't believe you can't get to a full-blown panic attack or lose control if you have that harmonizer on. I'm not saying that you can't be really damn nervous, but you're not going to lose control, because Ron's going to the harmonizer is going to keep installing, in your brain, breathe. It's going to keep reminding you that you're safe. But, the other thing that I found really compelling and compassionate was the people that were in the plane. Everybody was, nobody, it was just, I felt good being around other human beings. And, I remember sitting there flying thinking, God, if I started not feeling good, what would happen? And I started looking around, and you can just get a read, there would have been, the whole plane would have helped me, even if Cindy wasn't there, the people. Right. I mean, human beings are compassionate, so to the viewers out there that are worried about that, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And if it did happen, you're going to have 10 or 20 people there to say, hey, hold your hand and say, hey, things are going to be okay. But they're not going to get there. But I know what it's like, because, I used to read articles that, so-and-so flew, and, a degree of jealousy kind of went over me, it was like, gosh, I'm proud that they did it, but I'm jealous that I can't, but I'm glad that I did listen to all the inspirational people on Messenger and you guys. But again, if you have the harmonizer, you guys know, you think you can get to a full-blown panic attack with a harmonizer on?
I don't. But I think the important thing is to do the work in advance, like you did. That's what makes a difference. If people don't do anything to change the way they think before they get to the airplane, the odds go way up that you're going to have the same experience that you did last time. So again, it's sooner or later you have to take some action, but there are tools and strategies that you can get to beforehand, and you've really laid that out, Jeff. So again, thanks to both of you. And thanks for taking time tonight. And and you'll probably see me on your doorstep. I'm still going to take you up, even though Cindy put me out of a job. I'm still going to take you up, and maybe when it's 120 out here in Phoenix, we'll see if it's a little cooler up on the lake there.
Welcome.
You're welcome anytime.
You're welcome anytime.
Yeah, bring Dieter and Eric with you too.
Yeah,
I'm not that far. I'm not that far from you, Jeff. I'm
You're welcome.
Toronto, near Toronto.
Oh, yeah, come on over. I'm up on Torch Lake.
All right.
All right.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot, you guys. And we'll
Thanks,
I'll
Cindy.
talk
Thanks, Jeff.
tomorrow, Jeff. Thanks a
Okay,
lot.
take care, everybody. Anybody need
All
any
right, have a
questions,
good
they
night.
can message me. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks again to them.
Yeah, bye, you
and,
guys.
And what we want to do is wind this thing up here, talking about the 201 class coming up. Well, first I'll make a quick shout out for the next 101 class. It should be
honey.
coming up on March 7th. That's the next class, the free 101 class coming up. And then the biggie, the Cleared for Takeoff 201 class and the Cleared for Takeoff 301 class coming up on April 25th. And that's the one that if you want to have the same kind of success that Jeff did in the same day, come and get it, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to meet at 8, start the class at 8:30 in the morning on April 25th. And we're going to do 4 hours of classroom with Eric and I, and we're going to teach you all the tools that Jeff was talking about there. And we're going to get you ready for the flight. If you want to fly with us, that's the time to do it on that day. There's no tuition for the 301 class if you fly with us that day. However, it is going to give you the confidence that you need to fly whenever you next fly. So you don't have to fly with us, but if you do, that's the day to do it. And make sure that you get your tickets on Southwest. Go over to the website, and you can get all that information there. Eric and I are gonna be running the front of the room. Dieter's gonna be on the equipment in the back. We're gonna have Sue, and I think Diane, our resident flight attendant, is gonna be there as well. So we'll have our whole crew there. We'll do a mock flight, which is probably the thing that really prepares people to get ready for the flight. And that is, we just take you through flying, just like Eric and I had to do when we were learning how to fly.
Hey, Captain Ron, don't forget this time actually, we invite you, if you sign up to the class on the Friday, the 24th at the Hilton Airport Hotel, where we're going to have the class on a Saturday, that you come and meet the pilots, meet Captain Eric, meet Captain Ron. I think Diane even has time for that. Sue and I will be there, and it'll just be a great, more relaxed social setting to get some question answers, hear some stories. And I believe you have a saying about that, right? You and Eric never let the truth get in the way of
we never let the truth get in the way of a good story. They'll throw you out of the pilots, out of that profession if you start telling stories that have merits.
That'll be really fun and unstructured, and we'll get to know all of you. Yeah. And you'll feel a lot better about stuff, except for when you realize how deeply disturbed the two of us are. You'll really
there you are.
It'll be too late. You'll already be here, so it'll be perfect.
No, it'll be a great opportunity, and it'll give you kind of a head start the next day. It's not a prerequisite. You don't have to come to that, but if you're around, and in particular, we thought about the people coming in from out of town. We do have some people coming from the LA area, Southern California, and the more the merrier. And we just thought it would be our way of kind of treating everybody that night. So please consider that and take a look at it. So. Yeah. That's long enough for me this week. How about you guys?
Yeah.
So
you know
anyway,
what? Thanks to Jeff.
Yeah.
He really had great success. And I want to just quickly also, shout out to Shally, because the truth is people are on varying stages on their journey of overcoming their fear of flying. And we heard from Jeff today, there were some real definitive steps that he took, and also steps that he supported and lovingly pushed towards. But the truth is, we don't really know where you're at. And, for some of you putting, your questions in the comments, as inspiring as it is, listening and watching Jeff. And I think he even said it himself when he watched some of the, comments in our Facebook group. There's a part of you that's really happy for that person, because you know what that would feel like if that were you. And then there's a part of you that's kind of like, damn, I wish it was me, or how come it's not me, or, so where you're at on your journey, you may have to do things like ride up and down an elevator. You may have to do things like take the subway instead of just a car, you know. If claustrophobia and being in enclosed spaces, you know, and Shally, you know, my heart goes out to you. I understand. And so, but also examine that story that you are no closer and you know, it's not working for you. Because I'm going to tell you one thing. If you know things about plants, I'm not a great gardener, but one of the things I do know is that long before the plant pierces through the soil in the spring, it has been busy working, building up the energy, building up the stamina, building up the resilience, so that when it is time, that it can actually come out and, you know, do its job, do its purpose. And so for you, yes, you may have to take a couple steps back. That's okay. We're here, watch the shows, keep asking questions. And, you know, obviously in our Facebook group, you get the support that you need on your journey, as do other people. So don't ever be shy to ask questions. Send them in and we'll do our best to answer them.
Yeah, and I'm glad that, Shally, that you continue to show up, because showing up is the first step that you have to do. And remember, Jeff and I first met almost a year ago. It was in March of last year. So it takes time. Everybody is an individual, and we're happy for him, but we're also happy for you, Shally, when you keep showing up, and all of the rest of you out there. So again, that we want to thank you for coming tonight. It's fun to know that we're out there and you're supporting each other. So next week we'll be back here at the same place for Fearless Flight Live. So thanks a lot, and thanks to Eric and Dieter for helping us out tonight. Bye-bye.
All right. Good night, everybody.